I'm Josh Mills, Studio Director at Relevant Games. Our company was founded on the idea of making entertaining, fun games that actually tackled real-world topics or issues.
When we settled on factory farming, I started looking around on the internet, and there was always somebody that I always respected, Will Potter, and he's been tackling these issues that surround factory farming for years, right? And so a lot of the information I gained was from looking at his talks.
Yeah, I've been a lifelong vegetarian, so this project actually interests me personally.
That there's things going on with factory farming, but you kind of push it to the back. So this game just kind of reminds you, there is a bunch of weird stuff in your meat that you're eating.
I actually have a family member who owns a hog farm in North Carolina. He's one of the good ones, though, I like to say. But of course, I think about it a little bit more now.
A lot of issues surrounding factory farming, from ag laws, inhumane animal treatment, runoff that is infecting rivers and streams around them, overuse of antibiotics. There's so many things, but the way we go about conveying these things is probably the coolest thing in the game.
We went with an approach of satire because satire allows us to do a couple things. One, it allows us to have that real world kind of input, right? These really heavy kind of topics. But at the same time, we can have the fantastical, the ridiculous, the kind of fantasy stuff that we know and love in video games, and they can kind of have a marriage.
I found it interesting that elements we thought about adding into the game, some which made it, some didn't, such as the protester drone. I'll work on this art element and it'll get in the game, and then 4 weeks later I see something on my Facebook feed saying, oh, protesters are using drones to spy on factory farms, or we wanted to add in an Oculus Rift type goggle that keeps the animals happy, and I thought that's ridiculous. And then 3 months later I see that this farmer is actually thinking about making these goggles that cover each eye.
If you take the whole general picture, it's still kind of traumatizing, just pump these animals up and then send them to the slaughterhouse. But I guess in real life it's a lot more, a lot more red tape around that. You don't want to see really what's going on behind the curtains.
I think that the humor and the tone of it kind of helps the cause a little bit, just so people will play it and they won't immediately be repulsed by it, and it'll actually make them think, hey, maybe what I'm doing is actually kind of horrible, without kind of shoving it in their face.
We looked at The Daily Show, and their number one goal is comedy, but they build that comedy on top of real-world events, and we kind of want to mimic that approach. Our number one goal being fun, entertaining gameplay, but we want to build that on top of real-world issues or topics.
One of the very first things I did when implementing the game, pretty much every game needs a currency, and no matter what the currency might appear to the outside player, on the programming level, it needs a variable name, and I decided to call the currency for the game Murder Bucks. And since that sort of reflects my stance on factory farming and to some extent meat eating in general, and that name is stuck, and it remains in the final project today.
And they start thinking man, some of this stuff is really messed up. I'm pumping hormones into this animal just so it won't die as it walks past its deceased brethren, making this stink cloud. So so I hope they kind of think about it afterwards, maybe make a few more informed choices afterwards.
Start thinking a little more deeply around the issues, and they make those connections naturally after they've had fun, after they've played through half the game or even the whole game. Maybe they have discussions with their friends about what it meant.
We look past the fun gameplay and the cute cuddly style and bright colors. There's a pretty serious message behind it all.
I was really impressed by the whole team's ability to work in these real world elements into the game that seem crazy, but that just underlines how crazy they are because you find out they're real.
Just go play the game, judge for yourself.